0.2.
Because did you just use a sample? Could I
And it
ever give
doesn't
you the
contain the entire population.
Good. I didn't give you the entire population. So what else could you say on your chapter 5 homework besides this? Like, what would you say? What could you tell me about the mean? What did you do to calculate it? Is this what you did? Is that what you did? You added up all the data and divided by the sample size. So you have to tell me. You could also say it is the, let's see, we could say it's the balance point. You could have said it is the fair share. So there's lots of things you can add. You don't have to add everything, but you have to tell me something. Just reporting 2 numbers is not going to be good enough. Okay, you'll get something because that would be correct, but notice what it says on here. You have to explain the statistical information, like tell somebody. If somebody on the street saw X bar, or even if you saw X bar prior to chapter 5, would you have known what it was? Probably not. So you got to give a little bit of a definition, a sentence, not a lot. Okay? So you're going to want to use your calculator to get these 2 items. What measure of variation did I say that we're going to be using? Are we going to be using the range? Is range something I want you to put in here?
No.
No. Good. There's one measure of variation you need to report, and who is it?
5 number.
I'm sorry, what?
The 5 number survey.
Okay, is that variation? That's a picture of my spread, but I want a number. Remember the number that you need? The standard deviation. Okay, that's right in chapter 5 notes. So I'm looking at chapter 5 notes. I'm going to show you what I'm looking at. I'm looking at this. Okay, I'm looking at these when I talk about measures of center. Okay, so that would take care of this. So you're going to have to do that. What symbol should you be using for this standard deviation? Remember, there were 2 on the calculator. Is it the S symbol or the sigma symbol?
The S.
Yeah, how come? Why is it the S?
Because you want to look at it as sample.
Yep, it is a sample. Okay, so here is what we're looking for, okay? You can do a box plot. So there's some definitions about what an outlier is and what a gap is. I'm not super concerned, okay? But take a look, and if you have to just do like your own intuition if there is an outlier, that would be fine. If you were able to follow through the notes and get into the book and figure out what to do, that's great. You're not going to be penalized for doing that. So box plot is kind of optional. Okay, you might get extra points if you could put a box plot in and tell me about it, but it's used for comparison and you are not comparing your product to anyone else. But it does tell you about spread. It's a picture. So I like to think of the box plot as a picture. I better put of spread. Remember that box? Kind of tells us that's pretty spread out and not very symmetric. Okay, where the measure standard deviation is a value of spread. It's like money. If I have a $10 bill, it's more valuable than a $1 bill. If I have a standard deviation of 10, it's much more spread out. That's what variation means, spread. Okay, and then we had this conversation last time about what measure of center specifically is the best. Can anybody answer that? Should all of us use the same measure or different? Do you remember what measure of center is the most appropriate?
Mean.
Why the mean or when? You know what? Sometimes it is the mean. You're right. And sometimes it's the median. So I'm going to write that down. Sometimes it's the mean and sometimes it's the median. So each, okay, product could have a different, not each person in the project, but each type of food item that you have in the different groups could, one group could say the mean, like maybe Mini Oreo says the mean is the best. Okay, Chips Ahoy might say the median is the best, and both could be right. When do I use the mean as a measure of center? Do you remember that problem that we can encounter, like with house prices, with salary? Like I could make like I make a whole bunch at the college if I use the mean. Doesn't represent salaries at the college very well. How come? What's going on with salaries? And I'm just
Because
using the
it's adding everyone's salary.
Okay, and are there some people that I may not want to include in this total?
Yeah,
Who are they?
Janitor.
the president.
Okay, the president or the janitor. It depends on, doesn't it? If I want my salaries to look higher, I would include the president. She makes a lot of money for a good reason. I don't have the responsibilities. Okay, I shouldn't make that much. Okay, just as if the custodian, I know they don't make as much as I do, but I have more responsibility. I'd have an education of a certain level to be able to do what I'm doing. So when is the mean not good? Those situations, the mean is not good. Why? Why would I not use with salaries? What's going on with salaries that could also be going on with your product's weight? What could you possibly have? What would we call Sandra, because she's so far out there beyond my salary? What do we call somebody that's far away from the rest of us? Or a weight of a package that's
An
much more.
outliner.
Ah, when we have outliers, we do not use the mean. The median gets rid of, so it gets rid of outliers. So, in a nutshell, if I have an outlier, which measure should I use? If I have an outlier, which one should I use? The mean or the median?
Mean.
Okay, if I have the outlier, I want to use the mean. I want to total them with me or not. Do I want to, if I have an outlier, do I want to add that big salary in or not?
If you have an outlier, you don't want to use the mean.
Is that you, Rebecca? We can't really hear you.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second. If you have an outlier, don't use the mean. The median is less susceptible to an outlier.
So what do you guys think about what Rebecca says? Would you agree with that? The median is less susceptible to outliers because it gets rid of them. How does it get rid of them? It's gone. Okay, it gets rid of
Because
them.
it's just it gets rid of the outlier because it's simply the average of the two middle numbers, which is more accurate to an average.
Right. In statistics, we use the mean a lot, but we're going to have to say some stipulations about our data. So if I was looking at this plot, would you use the mean or the median? Looks like I have outliers. What would you use for your measure of center, mean or median?
The median.
Okay, in this one, who would I use? Mean or median?
Mean. No, it's skewed right.
It is. Do you want to count these numbers or not? This would be Sandra out here. Do you want her to be added into our salaries?
So you're going to use the median.
Yep, I would use the
Anytime
median.
it's skewed.
Yep.
Just you use a mean if it's symmetric.
Very well said. Okay, questions about that? So when you get your data, if you have an outlier, you should probably in your statement here, it shouldn't be probably, in your statement, it's not probably, you would tell me that you had an outlier, so the median best represents your data. Okay, there's this thing called statistical significance. Right here, chapter 1. You got to go back, and I'm going to have you look at that. Statistical significance. Is it significant? Is your data significant, or is it just what you thought? Significant means it is different than what you thought. And then lastly, summarize. Answer your question based upon the information that you found. Answer your question. What was your question? Do the bags weigh 28 grams? Are there 25 chocolate chips? Are there 15 M&Ms in a bag? And you're going to answer it based upon the evidence that you've collected. Is the mean close to it? Is the median close to it? My data spread out. Is there a right or wrong answer to number 6? There is not yet. There is not yet. It's just use your opinion and back it up with evidence. Okay, so evidence means that you have to state a few things. So that's what you're going to do in